And good morning, everybody. Welcome. I know I'm running late today, so it's going to be a shortened show, and we're just going to do some exploring because I didn't really have time to look up a lot of news and get a lot of reading in this morning. We were so busy at work, so I had to. I'm going to improvise, and something I'm going to improvise on is something that you might have heard about this morning on Monkey in the Morning, or you might have saw if you followed Jedi Ghost Bear. And it's this debate that Hodge had with a philosopher, a doctor of philosophy, Thomas Bogardus. And I'm not going to necessarily go into the debate, but I want to talk about some things. I've been talking about this a lot lately. I don't know if this bores you or not, but about the woman question, the gender question. So we're going to explore that and more today on Funky Friday on the Morning Night Live. Johnny, play the intro, please.
Ladies and gentlemen, coming to you live from the Lucky Dog Studio in a hidden location somewhere in the upper Midwest of the United States of America, it's a brother making his own way, but with all the wrong opinions. Welcome to the Morning Night Live with your host, yours truly, P. Dog Night.
Unmute your mic and stop the music. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Morning Night Live. I'm your host, Marty, also known as P-Dog Night on the internet. Welcome back to the P-Dog Night channel on this Friday, the 17th of June, 2021. I'm excited to be here because I'm so late that I'm just excited to be anywhere but at work. And now that I've gotten a nice clean shave and stopped sweating a little bit, I can come here and talk to you. So today, this may be your cup of tea. It may not, but something very important today, and it's extremely important. I have my disclaimer, right? I have my disclaimer, and this is so important to me. Especially because I'm going to be talking a lot about a lot of different people today. And so I want to make sure that we are respectful of the people I talk about. And I whether they share a political philosophy or a general philosophy with you or not, on the subject I've been talking about, I'm kindred spirits with all of them, even though there's a whole lot of different, we probably have very different ideas on certain things, but I feel like I'm on the same page with these people as far as this whole changing of language to make some people feel better about themselves. And I don't know. I would love to talk to some of these people about the subject of trans children. And that's the one that is more interesting to me. But to get to that subject, you kind of got to talk about how the movement is progressing and how it argues and things like that. So I find this subject fascinating and it kind of stems from this whole question of the what is a woman question that we got. We talked about the Matt Walsh movie and we talked about the dysphoric documentary. By the way, if any of you have watched the dysphoric documentary, which I found fascinating, I'd love to just put a one in the chat. If you haven't, don't put anything. Just put some in the chat if you watched that dysphoric that I showed you the other day. I'll link it again. I think it's a really good kind of description of what's going on. But here's the important thing today. The people that I talk about in my videos and live streams are just normal people with various opinions and their own lives. I don't need any help defending my positions. Thus, I would strongly prefer you didn't contact them, or if you do, if you have something new to add to the conversation, put it in the chat, okay? And I'd love to hear it in the comment section of this video. However, if you feel compelled to reply to them directly here or on a different platform or anywhere else, I only ask that you do so respectfully, as your treatment of them also reflect on me. They always figure out where you came from, and in this case, I tagged them all on this particular stream. So be extra kind, and just be good like you are in my chat. I appreciate how you all react and do things in my chat. So anyway, now real quick, a reminder. Oh, I should probably reset this before we move on. Let's say reset the Streamlabs Superstar sponsor of the day. Done. Okay, so the topic of the day, and I called it Friday Hodgepodge because I didn't have a name before I realized, oh, here's what I want to talk about. So I might have to change the title of the stream, but that's okay. Let's say good morning, everybody, and then we'll move on. Okay, first in the chat today. This is new. What's her name's first in the chat? You get the bell. Yay! Well done. What's her name? Got here first. Just edged out. Avocados Diablo. Also, good morning, Avocados Diablo. Speaking of which, good morning, Mike Savage, Blarg, James Colley's in the house, Septus Wolf, Cool Frogs here, Select a Boy. Yeah, also, good morning to Tyre Alexander, Rotten Corpse, Man Squatch, Somnambule Nation, Jeffrey Russell Jr., Simon Wolfwood. Also, good morning to, is that everybody? Okay. Oh, my friend from down under, Richo's here. Good morning, mate. Let's see. Jeffrey Russell Jr. Good morning. Is that it? Is that it all? Man. Oh, there's a lot of people here. I just don't have, because I have to scroll down. Good morning, Tall Person, Keebler. Let's see. Well, y'all are chatty today. Goodness gracious. Tyler F's in the house. Well, good morning. And Hate Camel, one of the original viewers of the Morning Night Live. What's up? And Keebler and Asian Research Directorate and Renee Mayette. And I feel like Romper Room night now. Does anyone, by the way, do anyone here remember Romper Room? Now look, Romper Room's so old that I remember watching it in black and white when I was like, barely 3 feet tall. But when Romper Room, she just could start saying a bunch of names and you thought, oh my gosh. Funny though, she almost never said Marty. And so when the times that she did say Marty, I'd be like, oh my gosh, she saw me finally. You know, as a little kid, I'm thinking she actually knew her name, which she's just throwing out a bunch of names. But anyway, also good morning to, who else is here? Is that everybody? I think it is. Okay, that's a good start. You remember Romper Room vaguely. Yeah, it's, that's really one of those, one of those old ones. Wait a minute. Richo, you don't have to be rude to have me shout you out. I shout you out every time I see you. I just don't always see everything because, you know, I'm getting old and my eyes are, you know, getting there. Oh, Jen T is in the house. Hi, Jen T Maxie. What's up? And Jethro Hetero. Okay, I think I'm caught up, at least the ones I see in the chat. If I'll figure it out. If I haven't said your name, I'll probably say it. And I'll probably say your name again because I forgot who I've said. You know how I am. Now, I am limited time today. And so I thought, well, I'm just going to look up some things that I saw on the internets. And one of the topics that I've been talking a lot about is one, because we've been talking about how the transitioning of kids, which is weird to me. It's just the idea that a kid could make a decision where they have to go on a medication for the rest of their life. And some people are saying they're doing it. They're learning this at 5 years old, and they're doing the puberty blocks and all that stuff. And I think it's nuts because there's no research. There's really no genuine research on this, except for the research that's been funded by activists that want to come up with a conclusion. Right? They start with a conclusion. They try to reach that conclusion. And even that article I read the other day from the Heritage Foundation, that too was kind of a survey or a science that had a conclusion, and they found a way. Now, and it was a way that I agreed with, but I don't know how actually good of science it was, but it is a study that Heritage Foundation seemed to agree with. Good morning, Chicago Mike, by the way. And so today Jedi Ghost Bear, who is often here, got me to listen to this debate between Vosh and someone named Thomas Bogardus. Now, Thomas Bogardus is Associate Professor of Philosophy, a traditional Catholic, tweeting in a personal capacity. He lives in somewhere in Cali. I don't know where he's an Associate Professor of Philosophy. But they were talking about the question, the debate. And the debate, I should probably link the debate here if I can find it. I think, let's see, did he put it on his site? Let me check here. I watched the whole thing this morning. Oh, here it is. And if you want to watch the debate, I'm not going to actually play this debate, but I'll have a link to it in the description. Let me get this before the intro on it plays. Give me a second. All right. I want to pause this.
Where we are making a positive difference.
Why is this not all filling in? Probably because, I see. Okay. So, this debate, Vosh versus Dr. Thomas Bogardus, the question of the debate was, are trans women women? And it was a very respectful debate. And, okay. Oh, well, we have our first sponsor today. It was a very respectful debate. But as I listened to it, Vosh is weird. Vosh is just a sophist. He truly is. By the way, good morning, Annalyn. Good morning, Black Hebrew Israelite.
That's right.
And Maddie is in the house. Nice to see you. So Vosh is a sophist. It's fascinating. Vosh, basically the entire debate, was claiming that all definitions are just arbitrary. And so his basic premise throughout the debate was, well, then I'm just going to use the one that causes the least harm, claiming that saying that trans women are women, it causes the least harm. Okay. Now, maybe in certain circles saying that causes least harm, but does that really cause the least harm when it comes to how we interact with other human beings? So, for example, there are many physiological women who have no interest in having male physiology in their private spaces, or male characteristics that are driven by some certain natural chemistry of people's bodies. aka testosterone, or even if it's even if it's a reduced testosterone, a testosterone that behaviors that males have that are somewhat, in some ways, innate. Okay, in the areas of aggression and things like that. In their space, women, some physiological women don't want that in their spaces. So by saying a trans woman is a woman and allowing that woman in their space makes those physiological women unhappy and uncomfortable. And I think there's there's a reason why we have different categories for males and females. Plus, there's multiple reasons why there are differences between a trans woman and a physiological woman. Okay, I mean, regardless of what surgeries, regardless of what hormones, regardless of what drugs, whatever you're using to alter, you're still, in my opinion, that is still a facsimile of a woman. Okay, now, but that's my personal idea. In this debate, though, I think Dr. Bogardus brought us this chart. Let me see if I can, I think I can open this chart in a new tab. Let's see if this will come up in a new tab, because I want this strictly just the chart. So here's something how Dr. Bogardus started with. I'm not going to show any of this debate. Oh, I should probably make it so you can see it, though. That'd be smart. Let's start there. So, why is that not fitting on the screen? Oh, full screen. There we go. Dr. Bogardus came out with this chart, and he started all these different ways are trans women. Okay. And so he started with the biological view, which some people would define the most common way that we define women, whether you're using the English language with women or Frau or whatever language you're using, that is woman, that equals the word woman, right? In most people will see this from a biological view. And that's throughout the world. That is the most common definition of woman, right? So he says in the biological view, okay, a woman is an adult human female. Arguments, words for other species, dictionary common use, trans-inclusive, philosophers agree, whatever, that biological view is women. So then no, all trans women would not be women, right? Social view. So when they say the argument that women is someone who functions or behaves or is treated a certain way in society, well, would all trans women be women? No. Self-ID view, because they ID by saying, using the definition of woman who identifies as woman. Well, that's a circular definition, and even then, it's not a definition. So trans women aren't women. If it's circular, it doesn't convey meaning, and it's necessarily false. That's a logical fallacy using circular reasoning. Well, if you're saying that in some cases, if you're arguing that there should be no genders, gender is just a social construct, we should abolish it. Well, if there's no genders, then of course women don't exist, because nobody would be a woman, so trans women would not be women. Then about these, and what he did, the professor did brilliantly. He went back and looked at a bunch of Vauch's different views, and basically went through all of them and put what Prowse has said in the past, and then used his arguments from there. And it kind of destroyed Vauch from the beginning, but the people who like Vauch are going to say Vauch won, whatever. Then Vauch talks about it being the prescriptive view. Trans women are women means you should speak and act as though trans women are women is true. Well, that's justified by utility, and countervailing with trans women are women is not true, because just because you say that you should do it because it's polite, right? That doesn't mean anything. Okay, so again, not all trans women would be women in that view. And then finally, the nihilist view, gender concepts are arbitrary social designations. In reality, there are no men, no women, etc. Well, then trans women again would not be women. So, and I thought it was a brilliantly laid out argument, and it was an hour of Vauch just trying to say, well, because words are all arbitrary, you don't. the professor basically is trying to convey the idea that it's not that the word is arbitrary, it's the word that we use to describe what exists. Okay, so he came up with this idea about water. We call it water, regardless of what we call it. Water exists. If you say, hey, what's that stuff in the lake there? Well, whatever language you use, it's still whatever that name that this particular society has named it, and it doesn't change the meaning because it's not an arbitrary distinction. It's just a way we describe what we see. But then Vaush got into this argument, well, people try to make the argument that men are, chromosomes and blah, blah, and that. Well, same with water. If you say that we didn't know throughout history that water was H2O. We discovered that later, the molecules, right? But it's still always been even now, it's H2O is water, right? Even though we didn't know that, it's still describing that same thing. And Vaush's idea was that, well, then you have different kinds of water, heavy water, this water, that water, and it's just an arbitrary name that we gave to it. No, it's it's a description of what we can observe. So it was a great, it was an interesting debate, very frustrating because Vaush, he talks in circles. Anyway, all his reasoning seems to be circular. So anyway, I found that really fascinating. Now, in the process of watching that debate and seeing the chart that someone who had tweeted about this said, and that would be this person, someone who calls themselves unusually reasonable, I found Thomas Bogardus's Twitter feed. Now, before I go on to that, so I'm going to talk about a few people that I've learned of during this, if you want to find other people who talk about this. And I think it's a fascinating subject, but let me go back. I apologize here. Real quick, first, thank you, Selected Boy, for sponsoring the show. I appreciate it.
Chinese asshole.
I don't know why I said that, but anyway, thank you for dropping a dime into this tip jar. Who says, I know this is a stupid question, but is entering the Capitol considered illegal, even if your tax dollars go into it? Now, well, here's the thing. I believe there's some kind of law while Congress is in session. I mean, in the way that those people entered the Capitol, yeah, it is. It's considered trespassing, I guess. Apparently there's a distinction of when Congress is in session that you cannot enter the Capitol or something like that. I don't know, because I know that there's people in there, they have guests in there during the State of the Union. There's tours going on sometimes. I don't know the answer to that. But the way they entered the Capitol, I think, yeah, I suppose. I suppose. You told me it was a student question. Anyway, but thank you for sponsoring the show. I appreciate it. Hey, welcome Damian Gershwin, who is watching while tucked, full disclosure. Well, that's a little more information than I needed, Damian, but I'm glad you're here. And if you haven't subscribed, click the subscribe button and the bell, and you will be rewarded with notifications every time I start my stream or put a new video up. Although videos are few and far between these days, I'm going to fix that. But I keep saying there's things I'm going to do that I have to. Anyway, so the point is, while I was, since I'm not as prepared today because I was so late, I thought we'd just go through some of these Twitter feeds of people who Dr. Thomas Bogardus recommended. But I'm going to first start with the person who posted this. And if you want to follow some of these people, I'm happy they did. Again, remember, now look. I think the things that these people talk about, a lot of these people talk about the gender dynamic that we're going through in a lot of the Western world right now, right? A lot of people talking about gender and questions like, are trans women women? What is the definition of woman? How do we deal with trans peoples and versus female spaces? How do we deal with trans people and sports? And are some of these trans things that are happening, especially with children, are they the right thing to do? Or should we be a little more, well, what's the word? what's the word? A little more selective in how we determine whether or not a child is trans or not, which I think is an oxymoron, okay? I think a gay child is an oxymoron. I think a trans child is an oxymoron. Just because until you go through a certain level of human development, you cannot know these things. You know what I mean? That's my personal opinion. It's not a scientific opinion. I'm not a scientist. I'm just a guy who does news stories on the internet from a certain perspective that, you know, a lot of people that are watching me agree with. But I'm learning opinions, not just for look, over the last few weeks, and I don't know why this has happened. But if trans women were women, no one would have the qualifier. True. This is true. However, there are divergent opinions on that. Thank you, Advocatus Diabli. So, good morning, Straight Sith Mail, too. So, where was I? So, on this question, I found an interesting array of people who have opinions on this. And I have a tendency, like most people, to gravitate towards the opinions of people who are similar to mine or match mine, but I do also watch this from a lot of different perspectives. But to me, it's hard to fathom the logic of the people who are on like, for example, from the perspective of Vaush, who we should just call whatever people what they want to be called. Okay. So anyway, but the variety of people who are on the other side of this topic is an interesting mix of very, very diverse political or social perspectives. And so that's the one thing I'm facing. I'm finding myself gravitating towards a lot of what would be called, some would call radical feminists, very staunch conservative people, very middle of the road people, many liberal feminists who just have this one section of their expected idealism where they challenge what's happening in our world. And it's interesting just how many varied opinions on so many other things, but yet we agree on this one thing. And it's often, even for obviously different reasons, some will go from a very, very hardcore second wave feminist perspective. Some coming from a conservative Christian, traditional, whatever perspective. And yet some of them are the same conclusions and some of the same reasons. And it's a fascinating thing where I find myself in a lot of conversations with people who have very divergent political, sociological, psychological views. So now the first person I found, the person who actually put up this graphic from that debate, because this is the graphic that what's his name? Thomas Bogardus, Dr. Bogardus started with in his debate. And it was a brilliant start because he literally all went through several different iterations of arguments that Vaush had made in the past in his opening statement and pretty much destroyed them from the beginning. And so anyway, that person who I found was someone called Unusually Reasonable. And she's sex, female. Gender, not applicable because and it seems like, because it's funny because gender is such a politicized term nowadays. Woman on the basis of sex, because we generally, and look, across multiple societies, we base that not on genderize things, but on sex. Women is for because that was a synonym for so long. I mean, the gender part was a language quirk that someone decided that was interesting at some point, and then the idea of separating gender from sex. I think that might be Kinsey, or is that Money? Money. Oh, that guy's bad news. Bad news. By the way, good morning, heroic Nico. Nice to see you. I think that children shouldn't be targeted about psychological warfare, since that is why school systems tend to protect untouchables that want to experiment on kids to lower IQs of future generations. Well, I think interesting. That's interesting. I think the schools. Here's one of the things that happen to schools. So if you watch people on YouTube, 5 to 8, between 8 and 10 years ago till now, there's been this. Remember the whole intersectionalists versus SJW, anti-SJWs. Okay, remember that whole thing after, because it was the atheist things for a long time, and then a lot of the atheists turned into skeptics, right? The skeptic community. And then there were the intersectional feminists, and there was this whole SJW versus anti-SJW thing. During that time, this debate was raging, but at the same time, all those little Tumblr feminists and the trans people who became very popular on Tumblr, and there's all this information that young kids were reading on Tumblr, right? All those people right now, or at least not all of those, but a huge number of those people, guess who your elementary and middle school teachers are now? They're people that came from that generation. So they're reading all this crap on Tumblr. And they, everyone's becoming an expert on feminism and trans issues and whatnot. Now, I'm not necessarily knocking feminism. Don't get me wrong. I'm not knocking feminism as a big concept. But the intersectionalist, who everything that people wanted to do became an ally if you could say you're a marginalized person. So the intersectional feminists were always worried about marginalization, right? So, but in order to make themselves a bigger group, they started to use every other things that people supposedly marginalized or oppressed people by combining the various means of oppression. So because you're a woman, or because you're a person of color, which is a stupid term, or because you were gay, or because you were trans. And trans has become the one that is kind of overriding all of them right now, because trans seems to be the most important. So when the Black Lives Matter movement came about, right, and the people were mad because George Floyd, that Chauvin was dereliction of duty and didn't realize the guy was dying under him, and he should have had that one charge he was definitely guilty on. So even if you don't like the whole guilty 3-part verdict, he's absolutely guilty on that dereliction of duty of manslaughter. But whatever, that whole George Floyd movement, right? It was Black Lives Matter, right? But what did that turn into in a lot of circles? Or you go somewhere, and instead of Black Lives Matter, you would hear Black Trans Lives Matter. The trans part overshadowed the Black Lives Matter part in some places. So if you watch, for example, the movie, What is a Woman, and he was walking, there was a scene where he's walking, I think it was in Washington, and the sign up there said Black Lives Matter. And then under it, there was also a giant sign, Black Trans Lives Matter. It superseded even the Black Lives Matter because it's an extra level of intersectionality, right? But what is the trans movement? Now, in my mind, I know this is sacrilege in some circles to say, but who's the trans lives? Well, they're males, men. So look, the hardcore, I hate to use the term radical feminist. I would say traditional feminists instead of rad feminists, but The part that the traditional feminists versus the intersectional feminists are mad about, and rightly so, is now they have a bunch of physiological males in their space, and they don't want them in their spaces, particularly in private spaces, locker rooms, sports, things like that. But the intersectional feminists, because they can claim them as an ally in their pyramid of oppression, they want to say, oh, nope, they're real women and they can whatever. Okay, that's, again, this is not a scientific view. I'm not a philosopher. This is just what I've seen. So anyway, let's talk about, so I wanted to check out, we'll just go through a few of these different people. And I'm exploring because I haven't really gone through some of their stuff, but I want to show you some of the stuff that these people are tweeting. And then we're going to get out of here because that's all I have time for. So anyway, so this one of the pinned tweet, and the pinned tweet is always a good one to figure out what their philosophy is, and plus the fact that she put up Dr. Bogardus's chart here, which I think is pretty damn good as far as answering the are trans women question. She says, what determines the number of categories of sex is the number of gametes. Sex is binary, has two categories with lots of variation within the two. Biological sex cannot change in human. I'm in that category of all three that I agree, okay? Now, we didn't know that it was gametes, probably until science figured that out. But our same categories of sex were always due to what? Reproduction. Now, whether it's functioning reproduction never mattered, because there are but the part of what we call sex, or even, well, gender, because it used to be the same thing, is reproduction, and that's in every species. There are males and females, or male and female parts of every species based on the gametes. Now, granted, we didn't know the science, but we always knew that there were males and females, especially mammals. Humans are mammals. This is not even a question. Why are we even questioning this? Because you're social constructionist. No. Whether or not there were traits or behaviors or whatever that didn't necessarily mix with the norm, it didn't change whether or not the sexual reproduction, the reproduction aspect, whether or not that, it didn't change that, right? So even if you had a, early female, spitting chewing tobacco, climbing trees when they're a kid, hitting baseballs, still it doesn't make that person not a woman. Just, you can't, personality is not your gender. Personality is not your gender, not your sex. Okay? The reproductive parts are your sex, whether or not those reproductive parts function. Now, Vaush obviously is going to say, well, what about the intersex people? Blah, blah, blah. Well, those are anomalies. Those are anomalies, and granted, they had to have some, within, just because they're anomalies doesn't mean that there's a third sex. It just means there's an anomaly. Just like if you have an extra chromosome and you have Down syndrome, doesn't make you a different category of human. But anyway, I like her pinned tweet here. Let's see, what else does she have here? She has, Alyssa even agreed with me that in a world where only black and white exist, the existence of a zebra doesn't negate the black and white binary. That's another good one, because that's what people say. Oh, well, intersex people exist. Yes, they do. That doesn't mean there's not a binary of male and female in the human species, or in any of the mammal species, or in the reptile species, or the bird species. Just because there's an anomaly does not mean the binary does not exist. And she's quoting someone named Alyssa Nguyen. I don't know who that is. Anyway, so anyway, this is and then she has a tweet thread here. Let's go through her tweet thread. I certainly believe those who transition in order to try to alleviate their gender dysphoria should be accommodated in life and law. Agreed. In that sense, I agree with the majority. How it happens, I'd probably not agree. I wish I could trust professionals, but I don't. I don't trust the professionals right now either, because the professionals, the only professionals who are listened to are the ones are on a certain side or have a certain viewpoint. Like, it's funny. I always think about the study. There was a study in did a study on sports performance, right? And they were going to try to say that, just because we should have allowed trans people in women's sports because X, right? And they're going to do a study on why that should be okay. So that person got funding to do a study, and they did a study and said, we're going to take a study on how performance in runners and whether or not testosterone lowers their performance and blah, 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 blah. And she had a conclusion. Yeah, see, a trans person doesn't have any greater performance than a person of the original gender female, right? A trans female does not have any of this, but right? And then I go look at the study, and the study had a total of 8 subjects, and the study of these subjects who were long distance runners did, like, 3 of the subjects, they were measuring times from when the person was, let's see, well, the times were like 3 years apart after transitioning. Now, they were all older runners. Now, what do you know about people who are in their 40s? Let's say someone a male can run in their 40s a 2-mile race in a certain amount of time. Do they generally get better between their, like, say, 30s and 40s, or they generally get worse? So there's already factors of aging in this study. It was a ridiculous study that I read. Real quick, thank you, Tyre Alexander, for sponsoring the show. Let me I'm not going to do music today because I'm going to make this a lot faster. Tyre says, I'm not trying to insult anyone, but bugs are not features. Intersex is a mutation. Most intersex are infertile, thus can't procreate. And this is with most mutation, like two-head snakes are incapable of making more two-head snakes. Yeah. Again, thank you, Tyre Alexander. I appreciate it. And by the way, you are the new Streamlab Superstar sponsor of the day. Thank you very much.
Stop. Hammer time.
Okay. That was the end of her thread. So here it is. So she shows this. The public reject one-size-fits-all approaches and search for solutions which balance different interests and competing concerns. The public believe that the extent to which someone has transitioned matters. Clear majority support trans women who have been through gender reassignment surgery using women's bathrooms and changing rooms. But a majority also opposes trans women who haven't been through a gender reassignment doing the same. From discussions and focus groups, the public also believes there should be different approaches depending on how long a person has lived their expressed gender. Again, expressed gender. I'm sorry, I don't. Okay, let me finish this. The public trusts professionals, doctors, prison officers, teachers, and others to navigate these challenges on their behalf and to develop tailored solutions that provide the right outcomes in individual cases. So this one says, she says, so there you have it. You can make up your own mind as to whether my claim that most of my beliefs align with the general population, but I believe I presented a pretty good case. I don't know whether it's, I see. Here's the thread. Holy shit. That's because I didn't see the whole thread. I was like, what conclusion? I'm missing something. Oh, this is actually a very long thread. Well, I'm going to leave this. Tell you what, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to leave this thread up as a separate thing, and you could read some of these yourself. Some of these are really fascinating, but I'm not going to go through some because I realize I'm very short on time today. But anyway, let me go on to Dr. Tom himself, Dr. Tom Bogardus. Let's see what his pinned tweet is. Let's see. Beer for me, mate. That other stuff you mentioned, only when beer runs out. Oh, yeah, you asked if I was going to do a pub stream tomorrow. I'm trying to remember. We're supposed to have some people over here at noon, so I probably won't be doing one. We might do one from the house today, but we might do a stream by the pool. Who knows? We'll see what happens. All right, Thomas McGardis. My paper, Why the Trans Inclusion Problem Cannot Be Solved, is finally published. I will link that paper here. Let's just talk about his abstract, though. Thomas McGardis, Pepperdine. Oh, he's at Pepperdine University. I'm surprised. It's almost surprising to me that he's allowed in the university setting these days. However, if you watch the debate between him and Vaush, I can also understand why he's not necessarily threatening, even though he doesn't espouse the preferred, is it the preferred philosophy? The allowed philosophy, as opposed to other things. All right, his abstract, What is a Woman? The definition of this central concept of feminism has lately become especially controversial and politically charged. Ameliorative inquirists, I can't even say it, have rolled up their sleeves to re-engineer our ordinary concept of womanhood with a goal of including in the definition all and only those who identify as women, both cis and trans. This has proven to be a formidable challenge. Every proposal so far has failed to draw the boundaries of womanhood in a way acceptable to the ameliorative, I said it that right, inquirist, since not all those who identify as women count as women on these proposals. And some who count as women on these proposals don't identify as women. This is the trans inclusion problem. Is there any solution? Can there be? Recently, Katherine Jenkins, pointing to the work of Mary McCullough, suggests that the trans inclusion problem can be deflated rather than solved. We will investigate this proposal and show that, unfortunately, Jenkins is mistaken. McCullough's project will not help answer the trans inclusion problem. After that, we'll look at Robin Dembroff's suggestion that we imitate the linguistic practices of trans inclusive and queer communities, and we will evaluate whether this would help us solve the trans inclusion problem. Unfortunately, this strategy also fails to solve the problem. By the end, we'll have a better appreciation of the challenges faced by ameliorative inquirists in their project of redefining woman, quote unquote, the clear view of why the trans inclusion problem cannot, in fact, be solved. That's primarily because no matter what it means to be a woman, it's one thing to be a woman and another thing to identify as a woman. Now, that last sentence alone, it's one thing to be a woman and another thing to identify as a woman. It's one of those sentences that makes me worry about. I hope he has tenure, because that is so immensely controversial, even though it shouldn't be. That should not be controversial. That should not be a controversial sentence. And yet, that line alone would get you called the dreaded transphobic. So be careful when you use sentences like that. But anyway, I'm gonna leave all these people's links in here again. I would read them, but please be respectful to them. And most of the people like that. P-Dog in Black. I thought he was a dark-skinned white supremacist. I am not. Or P-Dog is black. Yeah, I'm black. I've been black. Been black all my life. I just light-skinned, I should say. Okay, moving on. Now, one thing that Thomas McGardis gave me is another list of people that I want to talk to. Now, some of these people probably will not talk to me. Maybe they will, or maybe they won't. I don't know. I'm interested in what their opinions are. I really am. I find them, because this subject is completely fascinating to me for a couple reasons. One, I've been listening to people talk about this for about 8 years now in various aspects. And the idea that the whole, even the trans woman is woman thing is really one of those things that I go, No, they're not. They're physiological males. And some even acknowledge that they're physiological males. I appreciate that. Or are trans men men? Some acknowledge that they're physiological females and are just stuck in this situation that they put themselves in. Some don't like the fact they're in that situation. Some live their lives normal as they can possibly can. And more power to them for that. But I am really concerned about this because I think about how this is being, at this point in our history, is being pushed on children. That executive order from the other day from the President of the United States talking about gender-affirming care for children, I have serious problems with that. And the fact that now, I mean, I feel so fortunate that my kids are grown. And, you know, but when I started hearing about this stuff, they were in high school. They graduated high school, and I'm sure during college, I haven't even talked to them about their ideas on this, but they are beyond that and are living their lives. But now my children are starting to have children, and I get really concerned. I really get concerned when I see young kids going on puberty blockers and doing things that would make them sterile for the rest of their life. And I have a granddaughter. And I'm hoping that my 3-month-old granddaughter, I hope this trend is done by the time she gets in grade school. Because I see this as a trend. I see, like I said, I say this all the time. These people, a lot of these people are the burnouts from my high school years, or the punk rockers from my high school years, or the goth people from a little bit later, or the emos from a little bit later, or I don't know, anything. I don't think it's a trend, and it's always so many of these people are the kids who are already kind of a little bit outsider. So many of these are kids, but it's infecting a huge swath of them. I've been hearing horror stories of people who said, you know, my daughter's friends, all of them are suddenly trans. All of them are identifying as boys. Now, could it be the pressures of being female? Could it be there's a whole lot of reasons. That's why I want to have some of these people on my show, because you'll hear some of the reasons. And I'm going to tell you what, if I can, I'll have some radical feminists on here. I'll have some, you know, a conservative bisexual mom on here. I'll have who's having the same problem with her daughter. I'll have all kinds of people if I can. The subject fascinates me, and I would like to talk to more people about this. And I go in a lot of Twitter spaces talking about this. But anyway, let's go. All right. So anyway, then Thomas Bogardus introduced me to these people on my screen here, and so I started clicking on them just to see who some of these people are. So the first one here is Dr. Kathleen Stock, whose Twitter handle says "Don't Shoot the Messengers" newsletter. Kathleen Stock, Substack, column on Herd, agent, something there. Okay, so apparently she's a writer. So I want to look at her pinned tweet. Hers is Taking Pride, my new Substack. Oh, and by the way, when I say all sorts of people, there are all sorts of people. Oh, okay, let's see, Taking Pride. So let's see. Me freshly out. It's June, it's the beginning of Pride Month, the Holy Week for LGBTQ plus calendar, except that even the Roman Catholic Church didn't have a vision to ask for a whole month. All over the land, flags have been raised, Twitter handles have been bedecked with rainbows, and boxes of pronoun badges freshly cracked open. As I write, HR managers are gearing up for a jam-packed month of propagandizing about whatever cash cow the LGBTQ plus protection racket currently has its eye on: asexuality awareness, for instance, or ruining women's sports. Oh my goodness, she's going there. She's going there. Given the vice-like grip they now have on UK cultural life, it's only surprising the Queen's Platinum Jubilee celebrations were rejected as a diary clash. This annual festival of naked men and naked political maneuvering is incredibly dispiriting to any lesbian or gay man who doesn't believe in the underpinning values, if you can call them values at all. Some of my friends, now I'm trying to tell you, not all gay people like this bullshit. I'm telling you. And the gay friends I know hate the Pride Festival. Some of them like it. Some of them hate it. Some of my friends have become positively averse to the sight of the rainbow flag and shudder when they see one. In Brighton, given the ubiquity of rainbows from buses to shop fronts to lighting displays and beyond, this means you shudder on average about 4 times an hour. And not in a good way. Rather than feeling proud as robotically instructed, many feel ashamed of what's being done in their name. Oh, there we go. This is obviously ironic because part of the original motive for pride parades was precisely to redeem homosexuality from the inherited shame that surrounded it in a mostly straight culture, rather than just submit to the cultural implications of unnaturalness and a grotesquerie at the constant requirements of even tolerant people and that homosexuals could do what they liked as long as they did it quietly behind closed doors. Gays and lesbians wanted to shout, "I'm gay!" from the rooftops, unashamed. Thanks to such efforts, these days, it's easier to shout, "I'm gay!" from the rooftops, unashamed. And especially if you're straight. She's going to get into this. I love this article. Note that she said, especially if you're straight. See, there's a lot of straight people who have co-opted gay or the pride, okay? I see where she's going here. As a very recent report on seismic increases in LGBT plus identification puts it, quote, the majority of the increase in LGBT identity can be traced to how those who only engage in heterosexual behavior describe themselves. Taking pride in being gay was apparently so successful a project that the envy of many straight people was eventually a result. And that is the trend that we're seeing in children. They make it so special. If you're part of the LGBT community, in theory, you're now special. Teachers get lavish praise on you. If you're trans, oh, you are the most special person on earth. You are Superman coming out of the special closet that we have for you to bring your opposite sex clothes so you don't have to tell your parents. Just don't tell your parents. And so, so everyone wants to be special. Well, it's a way to be special. What's to be? And remember, being oppressed is extra special. And so now I'm queer. Even if you're 11 years old, you can say I'm queer, even if you don't even know what it fucking means, but it makes you special. So I'm gonna wear my rainbow clothes today. I'm a girl, but no, today I want to announce that I'm a guy. Whew. Of course, I'm gonna skip on, but you get the gist of this article. Of course, being able to shout joyously from the rooftops does seem somewhat depend on the location of the rooftop in question. True, lesbians and gays in Orthodox religious or traditional working class communities still find it relatively hard to come out, but there is relatively little interest in gay liberation for them anymore. That's true too. Times have changed and political campaigning objectives move on. It would be self-sabotaging of any successful LGBTQ plus lobbying group to prioritize wading into such genuinely contested intersectional territory when they could be focusing upon easier, more friendly pickings. Dramatic stories that middle-class white people can really get behind without any felt ambivalence. Because you know what? I got to tell you something. I'm going to tell you a little secret too. I got this whole trans thing. I'm just telling you, women in the audience, please bear with me. This is really popular among liberal white women. Ooh, if they could have a gay child or a trans child that they can parade around and they can have praise heaped on them because they're such a great mom because you affirm the identity of your child. Oh, wow. Oh, let me lavish praise on you, Angelina Jolie. Although it's liberal black women too. What's her name? Gabrielle Union? Or who's the other one? Who's the one? There's a new one recently that it's a big deal that she has a gay or a trans child, whatever. I don't know. Anyway. All right. So you get the idea. So I would have to read the rest of this, but I'm already liking, and I don't know. I have no idea Kathleen Stock's political views. I don't know if she's gay, lesbian, straight, bi, whatever. I don't care. She's spot on. She is spot on about this whole this social contagion that is just, I mean, you know, look, I have a cousin who's gay, I have an aunt who's a lesbian, and I don't give a shit. I love them. They're my family. But it's fucking up their worlds too. And I don't want that for them. Anyway, thank you, Jimmy Das. What's up? Jimmy Das Hotep in the house, who says, salute, P-Dog Night. Are you the wifey headed to HotepCon? Well, wifey, no, but I am going to HotepCon. Anyone interested? Thank you for asking. Thank you for, what is that, a 556? You got a big bullet in the house. Yes, I am going to HotepCon. If anyone's, now look, HotepCon may not be for everybody. You might be scared a little bit of HotepCon, but HotepCon is going to be fun. It's going to be in Vegas, August, I want to say, 16, 17, something like that. It's the second full weekend in August. And go to hotepnation.com if you want to learn about HotepCon. Anyway, thank you, Jimmy Das Hotep. Liberal white women are basically girls whose brains never left junior high. Kind of. P-Dog Knight, answer this. Your thoughts about Warriors beating those racist Celtics. I didn't even pay attention to the NBA finals. Apparently the Warriors won, and congratulations to Steph and company. I am indifferent to pro sports lately. All right. So anyway, you get the idea. And I it's funny. Oh, wait, did she mention something about what I saw the word? Oh, meanwhile, there's a script created by solipsistic males who wish to role play being lesbian. This is the thing that pisses me off the most too. The trans women who say they're lesbians. Okay, let me break something to you, trans women who say you're lesbians. Just let me break something. Let me here. Let's here. I'm gonna just let me break something to you, trans women. Qualifier necessary. Who say you're lesbians. Bitch, you are homosexual. There's no such thing as homogenderal. Homogenderal, would that be the word? No, it's homosexual. Homosexual, not homogenderal. Homosexual. Physiological male with a physiological woman, that's just heterosexual. I know. It makes you man. I feel like a woman, but that ain't it. And guess what? There's a whole lot of lesbians who want nothing to do with you. And that's just okay. I don't care. I don't care how you feel. The other thing I've always wanted to ask, and I'll find someone who asks it too. I'll go friendly ground first, and then I'll, whatever. But so someone says, well, I'm a woman because I feel like a woman. And I want to know, okay, what does that mean? What does it mean to feel like a woman? All right, I'm way over time here, but let's look at the pin tweet. Another one here is that Dr. Bogardus sent me to, and this is just her website because she doesn't have a Twitter feed, is Holly Lawford Smith, who is a political philosopher and deals with this topic a lot. Now, I don't have a pinned tweet, but I can show you a couple areas that she's talked about. Here is Gender Critical Feminism by Holly Lawford Smith, discussed by author Carolyn Norma and Joe Brew. Does Twitter hate women? Holly Lawford Smith on gender critical feminism, hate speech, and the future of Twitter. She talked to Megan Murphy. I like Megan Murphy. I know a lot of intersectional feminists hate Megan Murphy, but I think Megan Murphy's pretty cool. Was lockdown life worth living? So interesting. So check her out. Also on the list, he gave me Emma Hilton, who's fond of Beatles, and that's her Twitter handle. Let's see if she has a pin tweet. Yes, she does. Here is her pin tweet. There have been 2 academic reviews of musculoskeletal changes in trans women suppressing testosterone. both conclude that the loss of mass and strength is small and that strength advantage over females is retained. Citations to follow. So this is about putting trans women in physiological female sports, and there are studies that show that the change in their performance isn't that great, and it certainly isn't in line with the average or even exceptional female athlete. So the study, she links transgender women in the female category of sport. And then the second one, BJSM, how does hormone transition in transgender women change body composition in men? Whatever. Both are these academic reviews are peer reviewed and published in high quality, high impact sports medicine journals. So good. That's what I probably get. I'm probably going to read that one, more of that. He also gave me Dr. Claire Jones. Now, unfortunately, I am blocked by Dr. Claire Jones. Now, I've never interacted with Dr. Claire Jones, but a lot of people use, what do they call it? Blocking software for people who might be out of their philosophy. So it's possible that I follow someone that Dr. Jones isn't interested in hearing from. So I looked up Dr. Jones, and she wrote this thing called the Annals of the Turf Wars and Other Writings. Now this is brilliant. Now I don't know how long this book is, but she also put it on her WordPress page. And if you want to look at, I laugh because basically this is a long conversation of trans activists versus the trans critical feminist, or the gender critical feminists is what they prefer to be called, but trans people call them TERFs. And excuse me. So she started with this tweet by this trans person. Oh, I didn't have that on the screen. Anyway, they'll be in the tabs in the link below. So she started with this tweet from apparently a trans person. Trans people, we just want some basic human bigots. You are silencing women. Trans people, no, all women can coexist, and bigots. Ghosts on every national media platform in the country. I'm being silenced. Trans people, but bigots on a megaphone. Silence. Now, this is not the experience that I've seen at all. I have not seen that. This is the opposite. What you're seeing in media. Now, granted, a lot of people who are not buying into the trans thing also have large platforms. But I guarantee every platform I've ever seen is so trans inclusive. Even Fox News the other day did a feature on a 14-year-old trans kid in the family, whatever. And you know what? Obviously, it's this liberal white woman mom. But it's amazing that even Fox News is celebrating a 14-year-old trans kid in Pride Month. Now, what this family is thinking that their pre-developed child can make a medical decision at that age is unfathomable to me, but that's the decision they make. I don't support it, but the idea that it's on Fox News tells you that if you have a story, especially if you want to get some publicity and praise, especially if you're a liberal white woman, have a trans child and someone will do a story on you. Call the media and tell them you have a trans child. I guarantee you'll be on TV within 5 days, or at least the interview. The idea that trans people are silenced. And guess what? The people who argue with trans people are the ones who get, canceled. I might get canceled. I very well could be. I could lose my channel probably over this stream. Who knows? This may be my last day here. Who knows? But anyway, she decides to. She says, so yesterday this turned up in my feed, which struck me as something of an misrepresentation. And somehow I ended up writing my own version of how this whole thing went down. And here's the thing. I don't have time to read it, but my gosh, I've read it. I mean, I've read it, but I don't have time to read it here. But she starts a long time ago in a galaxy far away. Transsexual women, we just want some basic human rights. Women, okay. Transsexual women, we have this condition called gender dysphoria, and it's really painful, and we need to transition to live as the other sex because it's the treatment for dysphoria. women. Yeah, okay, that sounds tough. Okay, if what you need to do, remember, transsexual women. I got to make sure you hear the language. Transsexual women. Transsexual women, we'd like you to treat us as women. Most women, okay, we can do that if it helps. Then the prequel, a long time ago, in a lesbian bar that no longer exists. That's funny because, they don't, well, anyway, lesbians. We don't have to treat you as women for sexual purposes, do we? Many transsexual women. No, that's not cool. Or no, that's cool. Nascent trans activists. Well, actually, if you don't want to fuck us, then it invalidates our womanhood, and that is misgendering, and it's human rights abuse, and you should want to fuck us. Lesbians. It's human rights abuse if we don't want to fuck you? What the fuck? Nascent trans activists. Yes, you should want to fuck us. Lesbians. Even if you still have dicks? Nascent trans activists. Even if we still have dicks. Lesbians. Yeah, sorry, we don't do dicks. We're lesbians. Nascent trans activists. You are a vagina fetishist with unconscious bias and are gatekeeping your vaginas. We are women and our dicks are women dicks. If you don't want to fuck us, you're bigots. Lesbians. We're not bigots. It's just you're male and we fuck female people. Nascent trans activists. Literal violence. We are women. You should want to fuck us. Lesbians. Yeah, we're not really feeling that right now, to be honest. Nascent trans activists. TERF. This goes on. This is hilarious. And it's hilarious, but it's also fucking sad if you read through this whole thing. Because she captures the essence, the absolute essence of what I've been hearing since I got on YouTube and started seeing the intersectional feminist and the Tumblr trans people, whatever. It goes through so much of this, and it goes on and on and on, and she absolutely captures the whole thing. So anyway, I wish I had more time for it. If I ever start doing videos again, I might do a video just about this. It's hilarious and it's awesome. And I'd love to talk to this lady, but she has me blocked on Twitter. Maybe since I tagged her, no, I won't. She won't be able to see it. Maybe someone will tell her to unblock me, and because I want to talk to her about that particular book. It's funny as hell. All right, the last two that I'm not going to get to. Joe Phoenix pin tweet. I'm announcing I've been constructively dismissed from the Open University, and I'll be adding that my claim to to the Employment Tribunal. With reluctance, I've increased crowdfunder target to 150K pounds. With greater reluctance, I'm again asking for help. So this, and I'll link the article here that she concludes. Apparently, her views got her bounced from something. I'm an academic being harassed and vilified by my colleagues at the Open University for my views on sex and gender. See, you're not allowed to have these views. And this is the other thing. When it comes to science about this, what science do you think gets funded about gender ideology? It only the right answers get funded. You have to come in with the right conclusion to your study, the right rather than just actually doing science. If you're not asking to look for the right conclusion, you get bounced. So, my name is Joe Phoenix. I'm a professor of criminology at the Open University. I'm bringing an employment tribunal claim to hold the OU accountable for the public campaign of harassment that has made my working life unbearable, and I really need your support. My hope is that this case will force the university to protect female academics from the vicious bullying perpetrated by those who disagree with our beliefs on sex and gender, bullying that is designed to silence us and research. When I accepted this role in 2016, I described it as a love match. I took a massive pay cut to work here, having previously held senior leadership roles, including dean at Durham University. What is happening to me has broken my heart. This position at the OU was my dream job because adult education is personally so important to me. When I was 15, I was raped by two men, then endured a rape trial in the 1970s Texas. During this time, I ran away from home and saw more of life than a child should. I was an adult. It was adult education, which gave me a way out and it allowed me to thrive. I've been researching sex, gender, and justice for 2 decades, and I'm known around the world for my work. But things started going horribly wrong at the OU, this is the Open University, when I expressed my views about the silencing of academic debate on trans issues, criticizing Stonewall's influence in the universities. I also expressed views that male-bodied prisoners should not be in female prisons, and I set up the Open University Gender Critical Research Network. Okay. You know where this is going. She got fired. As a result, I've been publicly vilified by hundreds of my colleagues in a targeted campaign against members of the Gender Critical Research Network. I have been called transphobic. I have twice been compared to a racist by managers, and I have been silenced and shunned within my department. I've been made to feel like a pariah, and I've become very ill as a result. Again, this is where we get into the free speech issues. Now, if I disagreed with this woman completely, she still shouldn't be vilified this way. And I'm sure we probably don't agree on a lot of things, politically, socially, whatever. But this is a professor at a university where you're trying to find truths, where you should have vigorous debates about all sorts of things. But what does she get for having this debate? She's a transphobic, bigot, racist, turf, whatever. She might not even be, who knows if she's even a feminist. She's just a person who studies these things. She's been through a lot in her life, and she studied these things, and she comes to a different conclusion than someone else, but she gets the ding. Anyway, so, and then finally, let's see. I got 2 more? 1 more. We're not going to have Ace here. We've got Alex Byrne. Alex Byrne doesn't have a pinned tweet, but through a Stanford spokesman, Turbin said he didn't have time to talk to me. That has to be a first. So I don't know if Alex is male or female. Alex is a male. Philosopher at MIT, twin brother of Pip Torrens. So he lives in Cambridge, Massachusetts, and he highlighted, his last tweet was the battle over gender therapy. Let me see. There'll probably be an archived article. And then finally, John Pike. John Pike studies, let's see, the political philosophy and the ethics and metaphysics of sports. So I think he's studying the subject of trans males or trans women, aka physiological males, competing in women's sports, aka human female sports. And so he has several tweets on this and retweeted fair play for women. There's a whole lot of stuff that he does too. So anyway, I'm going to put all of these in the link today, the news link in the description, the second paragraph, which is a 1-page link. I'll update that during the outro today. I'm way over time, so I got to get out of here. But check out some of these people. Check out some of the things they write. And I'm sure you'll learn a lot. And that's it for me today. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining me today. Thanks to my sponsors, Select a Boy, Tyre Alexander, Jimmy Doss Hotep. And I hope you have a wonderful weekend. I'm not sure if we're streaming tomorrow. That's always iffy on Saturdays for me and Lady Boomer. Just our casual, non-political, just laugh about shit stream and tell jokes. And if we do, check the notifications. If you're not subscribed, hit the bell, subscribe and hit the bell. If you haven't already, hit the like button. Looks like most of you already have. 29 people, 29 likes. That's good. And share the stream before, during, after. If you are watching on replay, put a comment in the comment section. And if you want to sponsor the show, PDogNight.live, 24 hours a day. What's the other two? Venmo, Cash App in the description down below. Super chats during the show. I'll read the super chats and Streamlabs up there. So that's it. I must go. Thank you for being here. Thanks for participating in the chat. Thanks for those of you lurking. I know you're here, and I appreciate you too. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is P-Dog Night, and I'm out of here. Bye-bye. Hey, this is P-Dog Night, and thank you for watching today on the P-Dog Night channel. If you have an observation or remark you'd like to make about this video or my channel, I absolutely welcome you to write it in the comment section down below. I really look forward to hearing from you. And before you go, if you like what you saw but you're not already subscribed, please make sure you hit the subscribe button and definitely click that bell that pops up afterwards so you'll be notified when I post new videos or when we go live. I broadcast my live show, The Morning Night Live, Monday through Friday at 10 o'clock Eastern, 9 o'clock Central. A special thank you to all the supporters of this channel who share our videos on social media and who make donations through Streamlabs, YouTube, Venmo, and Cash App, which are all linked in the description down below. Thanks again, and until next time, I'm P Dog Knight, and I'm out of here.